Eesti keeles kinnisvara arendaja, paneme võrdusmärk, see on kõige suurem suli. Samas huvitav on see, et Ronen on samas ka Haifas Tehnioni õppejõud ja vaadates seda, kuidas tema oma õppejõu kohustusi täidab, kuidas ta karismaatiliselt siis laval või puldis hüppab, siis poleks vaja mingisuguseid haridusreforme, tudengid tulevad igal juhul tundi ja tahavad näha, kuidas niisugune mees õpetab. Aga täna ta keskendub siis pigem ikkagi oma äritegevuse peale, seega siis Ronen Barak, Iisrael. The floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. First, I want to thank you all for inviting me here and giving me the opportunity to share my company experience in the BEAM world. The name of the lecture is BEAM Journey, the Tidhar Way. A little bit of a background about our company. Tidhar was founded in 1990. It's a privately held company. Thank you. A privately held company. Our main business is residential and offices complexes and a little bit of industrial buildings. We are employing over 1,300 employees, engineer, headquarters staff, and 1,000 construction workers. Like you can see here, 80% of our activity, more than 80% of our activities is in the residential apartment. At any given moment, we are running 50 different projects in different stages. 22 active construction project. Before that, you have to understand, Tidhar is probably the only company in Israel that is full spectrum, full services. We are the developer, we are the general contractor, and sometimes we are even the owners. So in one big company, we have everything. We have the design capability, we have the construction capability, and we have one department that deals with operating buildings. So this is why we have 50 projects overall, 22 under construction, 12 in different phases of development, 4 projects in Europe, 6 projects under negotiation before signing deals. We turn over around 2,000 residential units a year. That's a lot of buildings to build. And 150,000 square meters of offices. And we own 150,000 square meters of property that we rent to other companies. The Israeli market is, the Israeli housing construction market, the volume is around 35,000 to 40,000 apartments each year. It's a demand market. We see the population is growing and the demand for apartment is growing. The demand is stable and it's not price sensitive. But it means that the competition is very, very fierce. We have a lot of competitors in every department, in the developing department, like selling the apartment, and in the construction department. We not only construct to ourselves, only half of the construction department is internal, the other half is for other developers, okay? And there we need to face the competitors. The designs are highly generic. You can see here different projects. There are mainly residential neighborhood, either towers between 20 and 35 stories high, or low-risers around 9, 12 stories high, 4 apartments in each floor, main lobby, and usually we have underground parking as well. The margins are very, very slim. We're talking about 2, 3, 4% for a construction company profit. So it's very slim and there's actually no place for error. This is why 2 years ago, Tidhar started to compose its strategic plan We call that growing the margin. And we even brand it with that logo and icon. It's part of the operational excellence, and we call it the Tidhar way. We have 5 different processes that we need to deal with. First is the value in design, in design brief. We want to be able to create better briefs for designers in order to create better products. The other part is the standardization. Like I showed you before, the Israeli market is very standardized, and there's no reason for us as a builder to standardize our product. It's not saying that all the apartments will look the same, but the processes and the characteristics and the properties of each space in the building will have the same properties. The third one is one of the major ones is the operational excellence. Actually, we are implementing lean processes throughout the company. The fourth one is the BEAM, which I'm going to speak about today. And the last one is understanding that if we have to do all these, we have to change all our processes and all the information system that we use to support that processes. So this is why this one is, the last process is part of the overall growing the margin plan. The target of that plan, of this strategic plan, is to achieve a 5% added value in apartment sales. It's not saying, we're not saying that it will happen in a day, not even in 2 years or 3 years. We're talking about maybe in 5 years to gain that kind of a profit. Increase the profit margin in the construction operation by 15%. We're talking about around 5% now, and we want to be able to reach in 5 years around 20%. And reduce construction overhead to 4% overall a year in the overall operation. Before I go to our journey in BEAM and BEAM implementation, I want you to understand the concept. A lot of people in the world think that Israel is a desert. Well, Israel is not a desert, but it's certainly a BEAM desert. When we started, actually up until today, there is no BEAM in Israel whatsoever. Nothing. We teach BEAM in the Technion, but there isn't any operation that actually pick it up. There are 3 structural engineers that implemented Tekla to some extent, only 3 throughout the country, among 500 or so. And architects, no one is actually using BEAM. They use BEAM for certain pieces of the design phases, but usually by just, it's a one-man show. What I'm saying, if the office has some architect that know how to use Revit or other BEAM tools, they will use them, but not as part of their core business. And of course, no construction company uses BEAM, and no owner uses BEAM, especially not the state. Okay, so this is really, we are the first company that actually started to do that is as part of our core business. We started the process in September 2011 when I joined the company. Again, you have to understand, even in Tidhar 2 years ago, nobody knew what BEAM was. No one. Not the owner, not the design department, and not the constructor. So I came along with the company and started working. So the first phase was preparation and infrastructure. It took us almost a year to do that. We didn't model in a year. What we did, and I'll show you in a minute some example, we just prepared the infrastructure, the processes, the families in Revit, the manpower. What are the demands for our manpower? Who are we going to get in order to do that job? Softwares. What software are you going to use? Starting to buy the licenses. Our first pilot was in August 12. That was the first pilot. Then 3-4 months later, we expand. The first pilot, we had only one modeler. We were 2 only in the company. It was me and the other modeler, and he was actually part-time student doing some modeling for us. So that was the first pilot. 4 months later, we hired 2 more modelers, sorry, and we started working on 3 projects. In April 13 this year, we started to explore the quantities and budget because we felt that we are in the right position in the basic modeling in order to start exploring that part. In June this year, we started the first project with co-location for design. We created our own design office and brought all the designers into one singular place in order to create the project design. And in that point, we hired another modeler. And a month ago, we started to explore the customer changes because in Israel, like I said, it's a demand. We have a lot of demand for apartment, and it's custom to create changes. Everyone that acquire apartment usually will create either minor or very big changes in the apartment. Of course, it cannot move the external walls, but sometimes all the internal design will be changed. And this is a lot of work with data and customization, and we started to explore that. If I go over the acquired personnel, so we started with me as the B manager. We have one part-time modeler in August. Sometimes around the end of 2012, we hired 2 more, so we had 3 modelers. And today we have 4 full-time modelers, and this is the whole department. So, like I said, the first part was a preparation and infrastructure. So, like I said, this was the longest phase till today. We had to analyze the processes, who are the external organizations we are going to work with. And again, you have to remember, none are using BIM. So we needed to choose partners that are capable to pick up BIM with us. Level of details definitions. How details are we going to make our models? We didn't know. Leading the external designers. Again, part of it was opening our own Tidhar Revit school. And we made classes, and we offered that classes for designers outside of our companies for free. Just come and learn how to use Revit. The reason we did that is because at the end of the day, we want them to use our processes and our methods and our tools to bring us the best product. Of course, we went over procedures and concepts. We ended up creating families because we realized that the Revit family catalog is not sufficient for us. So there was a lot of time invested in creating the different families. And one aspect of that we are encountered was the legal protection of IP. Unfortunately, in Revit, there is no way to protect your own families. If you send the file, everybody can take that family and do it and use it as its own. And we were really struggling about it. How can we deal with that? I have to say we didn't have any solution. Up until today, we don't have any solution. We just based on honor, and we signed for our partner. Part of the agreement is addressing that as well. Like I said, we built the internal Revit training program, and we built some organization structure and job description. I'll show you in a minute. Probably most of you are familiar with that diagram, analyzing the process. And because Tidhar is full spectrum services, we probably have to deal with BIM in every aspect, from conceptual design, from programming, conceptual design, detailed design, analysis, documentation, and so on. And we started to understand what we want in each phase for us. I have to say that we drop the part for conceptual design and programming. We emphasize in our first stage in detailed design and documentation and fabrication, because that was our main business. This is the same diagram, but only to show you that we divided the process, the life cycle, into 4 different BIM maturity level. like David showed and like John showed, the LODs, the different LODs, and we are actually now are here. We are done with level 2 maturity, which is the detailed planning, and we're starting to understand level 3 about the construction and the construction needs from the model. This is some examples from our library. We had to create 22 different wall types, okay? And have to think about every wall type. What are we going to use it for? This is another example, standardization, the doors, okay? We try to make the doors as standardized as we can, different doors for different needs. This is the same, just on projection. We started to work on work methods. For example, if you put a toilet, the Israeli code says that the sink needs to be at least 65 centimeters away from that toilet, and the bathtub at least 40 centimeters. So we wanted that knowledge to be part of our model. So we went through that as well. So that was the preparation. Like I said, it took us like 8 months. During that period, we did do some pilots, like very narrow pilots, in order to understand if the way is correct, if the right path. And then we got to the full-on first pilot. The project is Yavne. Yavne is one of the towns in Israel. We built there. It was, again, a full neighborhood, but we took only one building out of that neighborhood. The first pilot, we took a part-time modeler, a student. The project architect, in that time, after 8 months, we managed to bring one architectural firm to use Revit, and we had a good partner there, a good modeler there. It was a 22-story building over underground parking, and the goal was to model all the architect object, model the main MEPs, and to do some design coordination with the model. This is the model created by the architect. That was the typical floor of that model. We have 20 identical typical floors, so that was easy. We spent a lot of time in modeling the typical floor, but from then on, it was just copying the same model to the rest of the floors. This is the amount of details that we model. We have all the aluminum walls and sliding doors, the different kind of walls, the different kind of tiles, everything, the different kind of finishing in each room, everything was modeled in the architecture model. This is the MEP model. In residential units, we don't have a lot of MEP, but still it was a good thing to exercise with, to see how can we get the most out of the site coordination. This is another example from the parking. We use the model for coordination. You can see here the different remarks in the purple clouds. And of course, to every remark, we attached a 3D view of that particular problem in order for the designer to deal with that and to fix that. We used a lot, we're not only using Revit. For design coordination, we use Navisworks, because it has a good clash detection engine and a good representation, much better than Revit. So after we finished our first pilot, we decided that we're ready to get into full-on project, and we actually had we decided to choose two projects. One is the Dome Tower. It's a really complex building. It's 60 stories high, over four stories underground basement with parking. It's mixed use. It has commercial on the first 2 floors, offices and the next 20 or 30 floors, and residential units at the top part of the building. CU is another project, is an office complex, again 4 stories underground parking and 4 between 9 and 12 stories building. Before we went to that, we had to decide about the structure because we had already 3 different modelers and me. We had to think about the organizational structure and how we're going to deal with that. So we decided that the actual modelers, the model manager, will be part of the design team in the project. They're not sitting in the office. They're sitting in the project site, on site, helping the design team and the designer, the design manager. This one is for modeling architect, and we had to think about again for the CAD architect. It's a different kind of modeling because the modeler here needs to deal with the architectural aspect as well. So that was the day-to-day practice, but as a department in Tidhar, I'm, as the B manager, had all 4 modelers under me on the professional side. We have a weekly meeting that we can share ideas and share practices and spread families and templates and things like that amongst us. And we are planning to hire 2 more people. One is going to give full services of structural modeling, and the other one is going to take the responsibility over the templates and family. The mission for the model manager was to compose and manage the BIM model and help the design team to produce and manage a better product. And this is part of their objectives. I'm not going to go through that. They're here. So like I said, we hired 2 full-time modelers. The Dawn Tower, the architect doesn't use BIM. It's a big project, and they don't use BIM. It's a complex system coordination, and the design is happening during construction, which puts a lot of pressure on the design team. CU is a poor architect BIM capabilities. It does use BIM, but not as good as we want. It has a curtain wall envelope, so we had to explore that as well. And again, designed during construction. This is part of the Dome Tower. You can see how complex the systems are. Okay, this is part of the basement, the core of the building in the basement. Again, some more images. We started playing with site planning as well, modeling the cranes and the different temporary structure that we're going to use and see how it affects the project and the surrounding neighborhood. This is a CU building, like I said, underground parking with 4 different office buildings, and it's full curtain wall envelope, so we had to explore that. And again, we didn't know anything. We had to practice and play with level of details. How much are we going to put in? How much we don't need to put in? Working with the designers, working with manufacturers. What do they need from us? What will they be happy to get from us? What kind of quantities they will need? So we end up doing that, and this is actually the level of details we achieved in that matter as well. I'm going to quickly pause for a second, because in that period we had to understand the information flow in the project. So this is traditional information flow when we have the designers in 2Ds create drawings and then create detailed drawings and then the construction. And only this part was done by the general contractor. All the rest was done on the designer side or suppliers. In BIM information flow, again, we had 2 different kinds of flows. We have architectural design and structural engineering design and system design, drawings plus model, and then we do 3D coordination and building modeling and create the detailed design, again with drawings, only drawings, and then manufacture the drawings and construction. This part is, again, done by us, the general contractor. But we weren't happy about that, because at the end of the day, we were still getting most of the information out of 2D drawings, and we wanted to change that. So this is why we created the VDC information flow, the virtual design and construction flow, which means that the drawings are not coming from here. The drawings are coming directly from the model, okay? It's a big issue. We're not there yet. It's a big liability issue, because if we are in charge of all the information, how can we be liable of something that the designer designed for us, okay? And if something goes wrong, who is in charge of the information? So we're still struggling with that, and we want to understand that to the fullest. But in the next project that I'm going to show you, the decision was all the design drawings are going to go out of the model, no matter what. Just briefly about our quantities and budget pilots. We started by learning the current practice, the needs and the methods. We were working simultaneously. You have to understand that the tendering department and the budget department in Tidar are very traditional people. And it's part of their job to be very, very safe about the numbers they give, because it's about the money. Okay? And they needed to be certain that the data that we can derive out of the model is correct and accurate. So we start working simultaneously. They're doing their job, we're doing our job, and we started to compare results. And we actually find out that there are certain people that we are better than they are. There are certain things that we can deliver because we're not going to model that. And there are certain people that we have problems in the model or in the current practice. And the other part was choosing the right tools. Unfortunately, we still use Revit. And Revit is a not good tool for quantity takeoffs. It has a lot of problems. So this is what we did. This is in Hebrew, so you probably can't read it, but this is different items in the building, and we have the manual quantities, and we have Revit quantities, and the difference, and here we have some remarks to start to explain where the difference coming from. This is our last project that we started. This is our co-location for design. It was the first time in Israel that this was done. This is the neighborhood. It's a full neighborhood with 20 buildings. It's 4 quarters. In each quarter, 22 stories buildings, 3 9 stories buildings, and underground parking. It's over 1,000 residential units in one phase. We're planning to finish everything and hand over the apartment somewhere in 18 months from now. Okay, 1,000 residential units, over 800 million new Israeli shekels, and it's a rapid design. In order for the owner of Tidar's owner, in order for him to sign the agreement for that project and to acquire the land, he needed to promise that we can deliver, design, and have apartments ready for sale in 6 months. It's unheard of in Israel. The common practice in Israel is between a year and a year and a half since you're starting to start of design until you get the permits. A year to 18 months. We did it in 4. We did it actually in 4. And the way we did that, we had to, this is some images from the project. The way we did that is we build a big room. It's actually 150 square meters of temporary buildings. And part of the agreement with the designers that each designer had to send at least one person to this big room. So we had 3 architects. Of course, we had the design manager and the modelers, and we had the structural engineer, and we have the plumbing engineer, and the electrical engineer, and the parking engineer, and everybody was sitting in the same place. Like I said, they were using, this is part of the architectural team, they were using Revit, and this is Eli, he's our modeler. He was doing all the MEPs and all the coordination, and we actually managed to achieve that. We finished design, we started designing in May, and we finished it by October, last month, we finished all the design. Customer changes. So this one, we had to choose the team. First, we had to choose which of the models can pick it up. custom coordination representative and customer coordination team leaders. That was the team that we work with. Learning current tools and practices. We had to understand, again, their needs. Offline pilot by the modeler. We used the modeler to do the pilot, preparing all the families and the templates and preparing one example. And then tomorrow, I think, we're starting the full real-life pilot with real customers in a project. And the idea is that we're not going to use a specific modeler. We're going to use the customer coordination representative as the modelers. They're using CAD right now. So we're going to teach them how to use Revit. Actually, we already trained 2 of them to do that, and we're going to train 3 or 4 more in order to do that in Rosh Hashanah. The thing is with custom changes that we needed to model more elements that in the initial design weren't there. So we needed to model all the pipes, all the facets, all the electrical accessories. Everything had to be in it in order to be able to change it. Okay? So the idea here is to use design options. We have the standard design options, and we have the custom-made options. Again, some more images of the level of details. And this is the 2D drawings. Again, you have to understand, at the end of the day, we still deliver information from 2D drawings. But the drawings are coming directly from Revit. So the idea is to create, it will be around 15,000 different plans, because we have 10,000 apartments. Each apartment gets at least 15 different drawings. At least 15, depends on electrical drawings, plumbing drawings, partition drawings, coordination drawings, and so on. So we will end up with 15,000 different drawings. And this is the AC drawings for the different solutions. To summarize our journey is, first of all, what we plan to do. We still didn't do structural detailing. We plan to do that this coming year in 2014. We are kind of into hiring the right people and buying the licenses. We plan to do some 4D scheduling with Vico. Again, we're going to try to use quantity takeoff instead of Revit, again using Vico. Creating model for tendering. This is a fully different story, because in tendering in Israel, you have, if you're in a good place, you have 2 weeks to hand over a proposal. So how can you build a model, a good enough model, in 2 weeks? So this is rapid modeling. We don't know still. We didn't even start to explore that, but we know we want to get there and create modeling for development for the development phase. What we managed to achieve. We have a better product design. We have a better collaboration, shorter design period, like I said, 50 to 75% shorter, better system integration. We still don't actually know the actual results here, because the first project that we're coordinate the system with Revit is now under construction. But we are going to see in the next few months if we have different in change orders, okay? So, but we know that we did our best, and we are quite happy with the system integration. We managed to create sort of standardization in the way that we model and in the way that we hand over information and the knowledge organization. At the end of the day, we have better processes today, okay? Everything had to become a better process in order to create all of them. Needs addressing, things that we miss or we know that we did wrong. We still have some issue with model integrity. We know that out of the quantity takeoffs that we still have issues there. Drawing standards. And this is really, really interesting. People that use our drawings today from Revit are stating that they're worse than they used to get from AutoCAD. The reason for that, I think, that in the old days when you did AutoCAD, we know we don't have the information. So we had to put everything that we know on top of the drawings. When you model things, you know that you have all the information in the model. But as the modeler, you don't realize that the other side that is getting the 2D drawings doesn't have all the information that are in the model. So this is why sometimes they miss giving information, because in their minds, the information is there, but it's not on the drawings. So we need to address that. Quantity takeoffs, I mentioned that, and information flow, we still have some issue with that, and we need to address. Keys to success, in my opinion, the first thing is choose the right people. Internally, I'm saying, like I said, we started from scratch. I was the only crazy guy yelling beam, beam, beam all day long, and I had to choose the right people to run with. And fortunately, I have a close relationship with the planning and engineering department, the head of that department. We became very good friends, and we are counting on each other to do that process together. Be aware of internal politics. Eventually, usually we are a big organization, and we need to be very careful about that. One other thing is that modelers' variety. We have 4 different modelers. Each one brings different things to the table. We have architects, we have structural engineer, we have construction management engineer, and everybody's interested in different part of BIM, and together we are a really, really strong team. Be prepared, like I said, spend as much time as you need in preparation before you start. Build your family, build your processes, build your work description, build everything before you start the first pilot. Choose the right partners externally. Choose the right designers that have BIM capabilities, and even if they don't have, that they intend to have it and are serious about that. Learn and teach. Keep learning all the time. It's not ending. It's never ending. And if you want to achieve a good collaboration, you have to teach your partners and your internal workers as well. And I think by that, I'm done. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Ronen, for your presentation, and as you understand, we are behind the schedule, but igal juhul, kas on praegu kellelgi kiireid küsimusi? Jah, ole hea, too mikker siia, poiss nurga peal.
Hello. I have one practical question about your changing from Revit to Tekla. What about all these Revit families which you prepared for your projects? I guess Tekla doesn't recognize all these families. I wonder if it is worth changing.
We're not going to change all of our operation to Tekla. All our operation, main Revit authoring tool will still stay Revit. We're going to use the architecture model in Revit and the MEP model in Revit. The only model that we're going to do in Tekla is the structural model. And in that way, we don't need to change anything. We're going to develop our own custom component in Tekla to create a better structural model with the reinforcement and everything, and all the rest of the operation will stay in Revit, and we're going to use Navisworks to coordinate the 2 of them, the 3 of them.
Nii, sul on küsimus kohe.
Yes, thank you for the very interesting and quick presentation. Well, I have one question. I think, if I understood correctly, one project you had like about 1,000 apartment blocks, and you started the design in May and completed in October, so it's like 6 months time. Mm-hmm. My question is about time planning. How, like, were the people really working 8 hours or more? Because this is really a short, this is really 6 months, this is really a short time for, like, how many square meters was the building?
Yeah. In Israel, no one is working 8 hours, to start with, okay? We at least work 10 hours a day, but I cannot say we worked a lot more than that. It was from the center was open 8 o'clock and closes around 8 o'clock at night, so 12 hours all in all, but most of the people had 1 hour lunch breaks and usually left before that. It wasn't that much more time to spend. The basic thing was it was better collaboration. We didn't have to look for anyone. In the traditional way, when you have a problem, what you do, either you write an email and you have to still wait until you get an answer, or you pick up the phone and call someone, and then maybe it's busy or not busy, and then you maybe need to do 3 different phone calls, and once you don't have that, you can shorten, only from that aspect, you can shorten the design phase, the design period.
You managed to do the conflict check.
Yeah, because we had a modeling architect, and we had our own modeler that did the MEP. And once he did the MEP, he was modeling the MEP. So once he encountered a problem during his modeling, he will stop, figure it out, either change something in the architecture model or change something in the MEP model, and bring it together and go on. We didn't have we didn't break it into phases. We didn't model architecture, model MEP, and do coordination. The coordination was made online. Every time I put a pipe, I was looking for clashes for every pipe I put in place.
Nii, Erko, sa tahad?
I have a quick hypothetical question. This morning you saw John's presentation, so I'm just wondering, by understanding what you were saying, is that for the first entire year, you were basically planning the process. So if you had known John's work before, could it have been helping you somehow?
I was sitting here and listening to John and said, why didn't I have that 2 years ago, and I could use that. During his presentation, I was downloading it already, and we're probably going to look over it, because you have to understand, everything I showed it to you is, how do you say it? It's not written theories or written practices. Everything is in our own minds still. We need to sit down once we have time. We need to sit down and put it into writing, everything, all the processes, all the ideas, all the families, everything, all the catalogs, put down in writing in order to be able to grow. Because for tomorrow, if I have a new modeler tomorrow, what can I do with him? I don't have anything to teach. He needs to come to me, and I need to spend 20, 30, 50 hours only to explain to him what we did in the last 2 years. So it's not a good method. So yeah, we're going to do that.
So thank you, Ronen, and sorry, we are so...
I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, you're more than welcome.
And Ronen will stay here over the lunch anyhow. Nii, nüüd on siis see häda, et see mees, Enn Tammaru, tahab nüüd hakata mingeid korralduslikke asju rääkima umbes nii, et kuidas süüa tuleb noa ja kahvliga. Nii räägi siis.
Lühidalt vaid, et ärge, kui te jätate saali ja siia ju keegi ei tule oma dokumendid, siis ärge unustage talonge kaasa võtmast. Edasi, need inimesed, kes mingil põhjusel on sunnitud lahkuma, aga nad on peaettekanded ära kuulanud, siis on võimalus aga ainult allkirja vastu saada ka need väärtpaberid. See on kooli kord. Ja siis edasi, et me kontrollime nüüd siis veel viimaseid laekumisi lõuna ajal. Ja kui teil on võimalik, siis, ja kui teil on meile mingisuguse kohustusi, siis täitke neid jätku leivale. Ja kohtume vastavalt plaanile.